I'm Lawrence.
I'm Nick.
Welcome to the Nick and Lawrence Show.
Alright, so what are we talking about this episode, Lawrence?
Well,
after our big 1 year anniversary extravaganza video.
So I think Nick and I decided that we'd show you the last video, or the last DVD set that I have in my treasure box that we haven't talked about yet, and that is the Walt Disney Treasure Tomorrowland.
Okay, cool.
Thing. We kind of briefly mentioned it in our 1 year, but when I thought about that's the one thing that we haven't talked about. We've done the Davy Crockett, and we've done all of the other things by themselves, and kind of did the pre-package a year ago of things. So we've tried to every so often, just pick one to really dive into and look at.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, yeah, I like Tomorrowland.
Yeah.
That's obviously where all the fun rides are.
Right.
Space Mountain.
So this set is actually a predate of all of the lands and stuff. It's a TV show, and the thing that's fascinating, we'll dive into the thing is that so we have our Walt Disney Treasure booklet and stuff, and all the really cool information. And the thing is that I figured we'd dive into this land. The Davy Crockett came from the Frontierland series, and this one is pretty much Tomorrowland, but it's not the way you would think it would be. Tomorrowland is in like his park land. It was he actually did some sci-fi shows, and when I thought about it, it was like 15. A lot of the shows that are seen in Disc 1 are 15 years prior to when we talked during our 50th anniversary about the moon landing. So this actually predates, but some of the episodes. So there's like three episodes on the first disc from the original Tomorrowland series, and it was Man in Space, Man on the Moon, and Mars and Beyond. Okay. And it was really his way of saying, here's what the future will look like. He never got to see the moon landing because, of course, he passed away a little bit before that.
Right.
And then on disc 2, there's a couple of movies, and then a extra movie that is kind of Walt's last thing about Epcot that would not be the Epcot that is known in Disney World today. So, but definitely some interesting things, and then of course a poster that shows the famous sky buckets that you could fly in and stuff. It says back on the back of here, it says Space Station X1 invited Disneyland guests to circle the Earth from 50 miles out for a satellite view of America. This image was used in a Disneyland poster in 1955.
Wow.
So these are the old sky buckets that got removed, I think, by 1994 in Disneyland.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was...
Yeah, I missed out on that.
Kind of. I saw them when I was little, but I think when I was little, I was just too afraid to go up in those things because they were so high up in the sky.
Yeah. That's, I think, it's the first time I've heard about them, actually. Was it in Tomorrowland?
It segued between Fantasyland and Tomorrowland the same way the Matterhorn does.
Got it. Okay.
So I mean, the stuff is really cool, really scientific stuff. I mean, on the Man to the Moon thing, they actually show like old, like vintage 1920s films. Like I think, so like in Man in Space, one of the films that is featured in Man in Space is the Man to the Moon that was done. Man on the Moon that was featured, I think, in the 1920s. It was like one of the early silent films of the day and stuff, and was like a takeoff of Jules Verne's story.
That wasn't created by Walt Disney, though.
No, I mean, it was just something there was an original film, but they added it into the Disney.
Got it. Yeah, cool, because that was the one with the man, the moon had a face, and then they shot a rocket into it. And
and it looks like cheese, like cheese or frosting or something.
Yeah, that's very fun. That's very famous.
But it's a very famous film that they added into it. The thing that's amazing about Disc 1 is that all three of the films that are from the Tomorrowland series were all done in color, but somehow they lost the very tail ends of it. So on the original broadcast, it was all done in black and white. So you watch the whole show in color, except for its little 30-second intro and then Walt's closing speech at the very end. So here you have all this colored footage, and then the very end it goes to black and white.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently, I don't know what the story is behind it. If they didn't have that ending part of it was lost, or
Yeah.
so it was kind of interesting to see it all in color, and then the last 2 or 3 minutes each episode was like in black and white.
Maybe they were filmed separately.
Well, the whole show, like I said, these were original shows of the 50s, and they
Yeah.
were all in black and white. And when they moved the show from ABC to NBC in that time period,
Mm-hmm.
the show went into color when they moved to NBC in the early 1960s. So they went and recycled some of the older shows.
Okay.
But knowing Walt Disney, he always was one step ahead of a lot of people, and so his shows were, most of them were in color. But he filmed a lot of his shows twice. So he would film it once in color and once in black and white.
Mm-hmm.
Now some shows just got a black and white film, and that was that was it. But when I think about Tomorrowland, I think that it was sad that we talked about this in our previous things, which was a Kodak 1959 kinescope that they had found of them opening the Tomorrowland rides, the Matterhorn, and the submarine ride, and the monorail.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish that was part of this package, because that would make a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, in the treasure box that they only did like 2, as far as I know, they've only done 2 series. They did Frontierland, which was the Davy Crockett thing, and then they did this whole Tomorrowland thing on its own.
Hmm.
So I thought it was really cool that they picked out one land to put on a treasure box and took some of his, some of those shows and stuff, but they were all science fiction
Mm-hmm.
shows and stuff. And
Okay. Yeah, that I didn't know that he did shows like that.
yeah,
You say this was before Disneyland opened, some of the shows?
some of the shows. I mean, he started the whole Disneyland TV show in 1954. So
Mhm.
I think it's going to be, as we're putting this out for October, so because we just did our 1 year and we had a couple of shows we did for September,
Mm-hmm.
that we're coming right in line with the show's series that came out in 54. So I guess we're coming up on 65 years.
Wow.
If I'm doing the math right, I think, that's about right, 65 years, because the show started in 54, and this is 2019.
Yeah.
So that,
65th anniversary
65th anniversure when it all
of
started.
the Disneyland show. That's what he called it.
Yeah, the Disneyland TV shows, which would later become Wonderful World of Color. Well, the more modern update is the Wonderful World of Disney, I think it was. But I think he changed it to the Wonderful World of Color.
Mm-hmm.
Walt Disney Presents Wonderful World of Color. So the only 2 shows that he ever saw went from Disneyland to Your Host Walt Disney to Walt Disney Presents The Wonderful World of Color.
Got it.
And that was the last thing he saw, and then everybody kind of revised the title and stuff, or took out the surname of the show and everything, and
Yeah.
because I think we know it as The Wonderful World of Disney, which
Right. That was after he died.
many years after,
Yeah.
because that was, I think, something we knew from the 80s and 90s, and I think it's still that title, and it's usually used when they want to promote a movie on ABC.
Yeah.
Nowadays we have a cable channel called Freeform, which was, family and all that stuff, and so, but a lot of the Disney movies have been known to be on that cable channel, and I'm sure they have their rights and everything through it, because
Yeah. I wonder how that's gonna work with the new Disney Plus
right,
streaming service. Not to get off on a tangent
right,
here, but
but side note, I think
Side note.
I think it's the Fox, which is amazing that Disney has sent some of their stuff over to a cable channel that I think is owned by, that used to be owned by Fox some years ago, but that's a whole other
yeah.
topic to go into.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have to talk about that in another episode.
But this is, and the thing is that the Tomorrowland, this whole series of stuff that's on this DVD set predates everything that PBS would have ever put out,
Mhm.
and just the number of
Yeah, that's awesome.
the Discovery Channel and things like that. So this,
It's not. I'm not surprised. Like he was always a pioneer in all of the, technology and a lot of the TV stuff.
I find it very interesting that he, for his idea of showing the future and Frontier, he definitely, with how I was thinking about things, I was thinking, he predates. he predates Mr. Rogers by a few years. Even though Mr. Rogers was doing his own little local kids show, you know, they weren't getting into the science and the other things that they would do many years later. You know, even though he was more of a feelings person, he would have said, okay, this is how this works, here's how this works, here's, you know, brought on guests to talk about science stuff. So Walt was just a little bit before, you know, things that could be brought out in that realm before Bill Nye the Science Guy and LeVar Burton and Fred Rogers would have some years later. Yeah,
like you said, he was a pioneer in television, in movies, and everything he worked on pretty much.
So but like I said, Disc 2 is kind of fun because it really shows a predated Epcot that, you know, I've only been to Disney World once. And it's definitely not the way that Walt would have envisioned, and you'll see him say, and here's our prototype. I guess he had planned for a Magic Kingdom to be in Florida, but his whole idea was to create a neighborhood that people could live in and go to work in. So you'd say you'd go and work at, you know, IBM, and then you'd, you know, you'd go over and make your leftover for Starbucks or Dutch Brothers or something like that. You know, everything would be in, you know, a 5 mile, you know, walking or whatever. So you'd have the monorail and, you know, friendly eco ways of doing things, and then of course you'd have the Magic Kingdom in the mix of it and stuff. But unfortunately,
that was his vision of Epcot.
Epcot was pretty much to look like any ordinary town or city that you could think of, and you'd be able to, you know, walk to or catch a light rail or a monorail or something to that effect, and everything would be in close.
Like a small town.
A small town or a city. Our town, Sacramento, which we're from, you know, is kind of that way where you're hopping on light rails and you're walking and you're catching, you know, different transportations and stuff. So,
well, it's too bad it didn't turn out that way.
But now it's like Disney World that we know it as all these different theme park lands.
That you have to pay to get in.
That you have to pay to get in.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the future holds, but maybe they'll have something similar to that one day.
I have a feeling that we have it kind of currently, and I just think people don't see it. I mean, like I said, Disney World is, you know, not what he would have expected for the Florida project, as he called it, but at least we have it in other places. So his vision kind of is there in other parts of the world. At least around here, I see it.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. Well.
So I think that's a good general idea of what this DVD, you know, does, and hopefully we'll come up with some really cool fall, as we go into the fall season. Now we'll have to plan some videos, and Nick and I will have to talk about upcoming fall and winter projects for our upcoming vlogs.
We'll have to revisit maybe some of the topics we did. Maybe talk about Back to the Future 4.
Which will probably never happen.
Hopefully. But maybe we'll do a video on why we don't want it to happen.
Right.
But I look forward to you know, some of the stuff that we'll come up with this fall and going into the holidays.
Right.
And anything else?
No, I think that's
okay. Well, for today until tomorrow and beyond, I'm Nick.
I'm Lawrence.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye for now.
Bye.